Steam Deck OLED is now being delivered to customers and reactions seem to be pretty great. Plus, a stable SteamOS release hits with massive and long-awaited changes. And the rumored Gold Source Half-Life update hit, and it has some pretty incredible features. It's been a minute, so let's do this. It's Steam Deck news time. Okay, so obviously the big news is that Valve is now fulfilling Steam Deck OLED orders. I've been talking about the OLED model a bunch here on the channel because it's truly a really impressive design. I have been playing the heck out of my OLED unit. I am absolutely in love with it. The screen, the improved controls, the reduced input latency, the better battery, and not to mention the overall reduced weight of the thing has really solidified the fact that this is the definitive Steam Deck experience. The OLED is the perfect addition to your gaming setup if you haven't already got a Steam Deck. And if you do have a Steam Deck already, this upgrade is probably worth it for a lot of folks. The OLED Steam Deck is definitely an exciting and awesome device. I love it. I've been playing the heck out of it. So if you've been thinking about getting a Steam Deck, if you think that an improved screen is going to benefit you, it definitely will. If you don't care about that, then there's no real reason to upgrade. So, a German magazine has asked a pressing question, and surprisingly, they got an answer. They asked when will Valve actually release SteamOS for people to install on their desktops, and Valve's answer is, it's at the top of the list. Lawrence Yang said, quote, "We'll probably start by making it, SteamOS, available for other handhelds with a similar gamepad controller, and then beyond that for any device." Going on to say, quote, "I think the biggest issue is driver support and making sure that it works on every PC it lands on." And that's great to hear. As far as I can tell, the biggest issue is going to be driver support when it's released for the general public. Most people expect things to just work, and if they install SteamOS on their desktop and they don't have like run-of-the-mill hardware, they're gonna have an issue. Now, granted, most people do have that kind of run-of-the-mill hardware, stuff like, Intel-based Wi-Fi chips and what have you. And for the most part, most hardware has Linux driver support these days. But not all drivers are created equal. Are the Linux drivers for your specific hardware going to be comparable with the Windows ones? Will end users even notice? There's a lot of questions here, and I don't envy Valve for the position that they're in right now. Microsoft is a multi-billion-dollar company, and they have the bully pulpit of being like the operating system for the desktop. So getting hardware vendors on board to support Linux and SteamOS, getting end users on board, and testing like infinite combinations of PC hardware, boy howdy, that sounds like an absolute chore. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this one for sure. I want to know what you think though. Are you going to install SteamOS on your desktop when it actually officially drops? Leave me a comment and let me know. If you believe in the work that I'm doing here and you want to help this show grow, you can like that smash button to stay up to date with all the fun stuff that we're doing here on the channel. I want to thank my patrons for their continued support. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you guys. And with that, let's move on to the next story. So Half-Life's 25th anniversary was Sunday, and it's hard to believe. I was 10 years old when Half-Life came out, and due to my parents' rather strict religious upbringing, they closely monitored everything that I watched on TV, all the movies I rented, and the games that I got to play on console. But somehow the PC I had in my bedroom was a major blind spot for them. So when I got a demo disc with Half-Life on it, you better bet that I was playing the heck out of that. I knew it was something special, and I knew that it was a game that I was not going to be allowed to play if my parents saw it, but I got away with it. And the demo was amazing. I remember thinking how different it felt from other games that I had played, and not just on PC, but anywhere. Now, I've been a Half-Life fan since that day. I mean, 25 years have passed, and I have to say that it's nice to see Valve finally acknowledging their origins here. To celebrate a quarter century of Half-Life, they've released a massive new title update. I've spent the last few evenings revisiting one of my favorite games of all time, and it's kind of a whole new experience on the Steam Deck. This new update adds official Steam Deck support running natively on Linux. This includes superb thumbstick input as well as perfectly implemented trackpad support. This is something that I noticed with Half-Life 2 and the Steam controller actually. The way you play the game has a major impact on how it feels. Your experience with the title. I highly recommend you give it a shot, especially if you haven't tried a game like Half-Life or Half-Life 2 with a trackpad and gyro aim, my god, it is perfect. It's sublime. But this Half-Life update doesn't just improve the controls. It brings with it modern Steam networking, updated graphical settings, improved lighting, a new proper widescreen field of view. There's 4 new maps in Deathmatch, 3 old Deathmatch maps that were formerly only available in the Half-Life Further Data CD. They've added Ivan the Space Biker, Prototype Barney, a skeleton, and Too Much Coffee Man as playable models in Deathmatch mode, and the option to switch between the original and HD models are now here. One interesting fact is that this update has made vehicles available to modders so that custom maps can include them. That's really neat. It also includes the original demo that I mentioned, Half-Life Uplink. The nostalgia here is strong with this one. But one of the things that got me kind of choked up actually was the fact that Secret Tape, the No Clips production company, if you know No Clip documentaries, they were actually commissioned by Valve to create a Half-Life documentary. The Half-Life documentary that they tried to do 5 years ago. And this brought me so much joy to see. I was very excited to see this. And it's an hour-long documentary about Half-Life, officially made by Valve. They brought in people who made the game who no longer work at the company, and my god, it was so nice to see. So yeah, I'm impressed. Valve's actually talking about Half-Life, and right now you can actually get the original Half-Life for free on Steam until November 25th. That's really nice. Quote, "We now consider this anniversary version of Half-Life to be the definitive version and the one we'll continue to support going forward." Going forward. Now this has me wondering, will other Gold Source games get the same kind of treatment? The thing is, they've done the work here. They've brought in Steam networking, they've brought in widescreen field of view into the Gold Source engine. They've done a bunch of engine improvements to Gold Source. So will Blue Shift and Opposing Force get the same treatment? Time will tell. But I think the even bigger question is, what are they going to do for Half-Life 2's 20th anniversary next year? The Half-Life 2 entry on SteamDB shows that there's a new password-protected branch that just showed up. It's called Pathfinding Test. This was wild because people were speculating about this exact Half-Life update because there was a password-protected branch on the Half-Life game. This is pretty wild to me because why would Valve need to create a pathfinding test in a nearly 20-year-old game unless they're planning something similar, bringing in beta assets or cut content? The sky's the limit here. There's also the Half-Life franchise advertising app, which is a group of applications on Steam, and it's just kind of mysteriously sitting there. We don't have any information about it except for the name. So will we see a new Half-Life VR game sometime soon with an update to Half-Life 2 kind of going hand in hand with that? I'd love to hear your thoughts about any of this. Leave me a comment below. All right, next up, let's talk about SteamOS version 3.5.5. This update hit on the 16th, and it brought with it many massive changes that we've been talking about for weeks in the beta branch. And one of my favorite features is that the LCD model has a new color-calibrated profile. So when you turn on your LCD deck, the screen actually has greater vibrance and better color contrast. And if you had asked me, before the Steam Deck OLED was announced, this was going to be a game changer, and it still is. This is really exciting stuff. It at least marginally closes the gap between the LCD and the OLED models. I mean, the color calibration here makes a huge difference, right? I'm going to put the color calibrated Steam Deck and the non-color calibrated Steam Deck on screen right now, and then I'll put in the OLED model just for reference. Hopefully you can see the difference on camera. The difference in person is stark. It's very, very noticeable. The Steam Deck now also has HDR output in the display settings if it's supported by an external display. And the same goes for variable refresh rate. Your dock also has to support variable refresh rate though. There's also the HDR analysis tool in advanced display settings. Now, this update also mainlines support for Steam Deck OLED. And now, in theory, this should enable you to swap out your SSD from your LCD deck to your OLED. But I haven't tried that. I don't know if that actually works. This new release also brings with it new graphics drivers, including better performance in Starfield, Amnesia the Bunker, and other games. Version 3.55 has improved Bluetooth stability, external storage devices are now auto-mounted in game mode, and the controller firmware has been upgraded. And speaking of firmware, there's now firmware for the Deck that adds voltage offset settings, and they released new docking station firmware that adds VRR support and improved HDMI events. Then, the Linux base got some updates, including software package upgrades and recent KDE Plasma changes. This has been a huge week for the Steam Deck and for Valve in general. I'm keen to hear your guys' thoughts. Sound off below about any of the stories we talked about. I think that's going to do it for now, though. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the work that I'm doing, you can become a patron using the link below. You can also get subscribed if that's more your speed. Don't forget to like that smash button, leave me a comment, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.